Welcome back to Module 2 of Research Methods 1. A couple more things about the research process. So say we have stated our hypothesis, we have looked at the literature and found out that there's enough evidence to suggest that what we are predicting is going to have some evidence behind it, or it makes sense to ask that question and take it to the next step. After we state our hypothesis, we need to operationalize our variables or operationally define them. I talked about this earlier. Just briefly, if we want to examine, for example, aggression in children who watch a lot of TV, we're going to have to make sure we specifically define the concepts not only of aggression, what specifically does that mean, but we also need to define the concept and measurement of lots of TV. What is lots of TV? That will vary depending on how people feel about TV and whether any of it at all is lots, or if you have to watch a certain number of hours per week or per day for it to be a lot. And you might also want to qualify that by the type of TV that it is. Rather than the news, for example, maybe violent cartoons or something like that. Excuse me. Okay, so after you have operationally defined your variables, you then want to select your method, your research method. And if you're going to show a causal relationship, or rather you want to test that this variable causes that one, then you really should do an experiment. And that's just kind of the rule there. If you want to show causality, you should do an experiment. But you might also do an observational study, and that could be either something that you actually intervene in and you become part of, or you simply stand back and watch through naturalistic observation. We'll talk more about that later. You could do a survey. Surveys are not as easy as people think, but sometimes they are the simplest way to gather data from participants. They are probably not easy on the front end, but they are easy after the fact. You could do a case study, an in-depth study of one individual, especially or an individual or group that has something special or interesting about that particular individual or group, like chimpanzees who use sign language, or schizophrenic patients, something like that. And then finally, another example of a method that you might choose is an archival data study, where you take studies that are, or you take rather either someone else's data, which is already existing, and that would be an archival study, or and analyze it for your own purposes in your own way. Or you could look at things like personal ads or eHarmony data or Facebook postings, things that are already out there, data that are already out in the world, and you are simply accessing them and researching them for your own purposes like that. So basically that's the next step in the research process, and I will be back with you in just a minute.